5 years ago, I was working 70 hours a week, making 100K a year, and had only $40,000 in my savings account. Today, I run a business that generates more in a month than I used to make in a year. The difference? I finally learned what school never taught me about money. If you're tired of being broke despite working your ass off, the next 20 minutes will change your life forever. What's up, everyone? I'm Rajan Sharma, and I need to be brutally honest with you. 5 years ago, I was a poster child for the rat race. College degree, corporate job, superannuation contributions, doing everything I was supposed to do. But I was miserable, broke, and trapped. I remember sitting in my cubicle at 9 p.m. on Friday, watching my boss drive away in his Tesla, while I calculated I could afford gas and groceries that week. That night, I made a decision that changed everything today. Today, I'm going to share the 5 money principles that school never taught me. Principles that took me from living paycheck to complete financial freedom. And trust me, if I can do this, so can you. Let me tell you about the biggest lie I believed for 27 years of my life, that hard work equals more money. I was that guy who stayed late, came in early, took on extra projects. I thought my boss would notice and reward me. And you know what happened? I got 3% raise while the company's profits went up by 40%. That's when it hit me. I was being paid for my time, not for my results. My paycheck was the same whether I solved major problems or just showed up. Here is what changed everything. I started tracking the actual value I created. I documented every project I completed, every dollar I saved the company. Every process I improved. The numbers were insane. I was generating about $500,000 value annually, but getting paid only 100K. So I made a radical decision. I went to my boss with a proposal. Let me work on commission for the projects I brought. He laughed and said no. That was my wake-up call. I realized that as long as I traded hours for dollars, I would be broke. The wealthy don't sell their time, they sell results, solutions, and value. My first side business was consulting for small companies, solving the same problems I solved for my corporate job. But instead of getting paid $50 an hour, I charged $150 an hour for the results. Here's your action step. This week, calculate the actual value you create at work. What revenue do you generate? What costs do you save? What problems do you solve? Once you see this number, you'll never think about your paycheck the same way. Stop asking for more hours and start asking how you can create more value. That's the first step to escaping the time for money trap that keeps most people broke. Here is the embarrassing truth. When I got my first big promotion and started making 100K, I was more broke than when I made only $50,000. I couldn't figure out more money, same problems. I was still living paycheck to paycheck, just with nicer stuff. Then I did something that changed my life. I tracked every single dollar spent for 30 days, and what I found shocked me. I was spending $1,200 a month on stuff I didn't even remember buying, subscriptions I forgot about, impulse purchases, eating out because I was too busy to cook. I was literally wasting money and didn't even know it. I realized I had been focusing on the wrong side of the equation. I was obsessed with making more money, but completely ignored where my money was going. Here is what I learned. Consumption habits scale with income unless you are intentional about it. Make more money, spend more money. It's a trap that keeps high earners broke. So I created what I call a wealth equation. Income minus consumption equals investment power. Most people try to increase income while consumption runs wild. That's why lottery winners go broke and athletes go for bankruptcy. I split my expenses into 3 categories: survival, rent, utilities, basic food, lifestyle, entertainment, dining out, hobbies, and growth. Anything that makes me more money. The shocking discovery, my lifestyle expenses were 60% of my income. No wonder I was broke. I made a deal with myself. cut lifestyle expenses by 50%, and redirect that money to growth investments. This wasn't about living like a monk, it was about being intentional. Instead of $15 lunch, I prepared a meal for $3. Instead of $200 night out, I had friends over. Instead of the new car payment, I kept my reliable used car. That $600 a month I saved became my investment fund. I used it for courses, business tools, and eventually starting my own company. Here are your action steps. Track every dollar for 1 week. You'll be shocked at where your money actually goes. Then ask yourself, is this purchase moving me towards freedom or keeping me trapped? Let me tell you about the day I realized I was working 70-hour weeks, exhausted, stressed, and barely keeping up. My manager, who made 3 times my salary, I was furious. How was this fair? I was doing all the work. Then it clicked me. He wasn't being paid for work. He was being paid for leverage. While I was doing the tasks, he was making decisions that affected entire departments. That's where I discovered. First, people leverage instead of doing everything themselves. I started delegating and building systems at work. Second, technology leverage. I learned to use the tools that multiply my output. Instead of manually creating reports, I built automated systems. Third, capital leverage. I stopped keeping all my money in my savings account and started investing. This is the big one. I started creating content that could help multiply people simultaneously. One course could generate revenue for years. When I started my business, I applied all the 3 types of leverage from my day one. The result? My business makes more money per month than I used to make per year, and I work fewer hours than I did at my corporate job. Here is your action step. Pick one task you do regularly and figure out how to leverage it. Leverage is the difference between being busy and being wealthy. I spent 4 years and $40,000 getting a degree in something I never used. Want to know what actually made me money? Skills I learned on YouTube for free. Here's what I wish someone had told me. The market doesn't pay for credentials, it pays for the results. When I started my consulting business, not a single client asked me about my degree. They asked, "Can you solve our problem? Can you get us results?" I identified the highest value skills in my industry: sales, market, product management, and automation. These skills directly impact revenue, which means companies will pay premium rates for them. You don't need permission to start practicing. You can begin implementing what you learn right away. When I was still employed, I used my job as a laboratory to practice these skills. I volunteered for projects that required sales and marketing. I documented my results and built a portfolio of proof. This portfolio became my ticket to freedom. When I started my business, I had evidence of what I could accomplish. Here is your action step. Identify the top 3 skills in your industry that directly impacts revenue or efficiency. Choose one and commit to learning it over the next 90 days. Practice it in your current job, freelance projects, or personal projects. Remember, skills compound. The more valuable skills you develop, the more valuable you become to the market. Then I learned the difference between assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. Insurance, gas, maintenance, depreciation, it was costing me $800 a month. Meanwhile, wealthy people were buying assets, real estate, businesses, stocks, education that increased their earning power. I redirected money from liabilities to assets. Instead of a $500 car payment, I invested $500 monthly in index funds and courses. The compound effect was incredible. Within 2 years, my assets were generating enough passive income to cover my basic expenses. That's when I knew I could quit my job and start my business full time. Here is your action step. Before making any purchase over $100 this week, ask yourself, is this an asset or liability? Will this make me money or cost me money over time? Let me be real with you for a second. School taught me to be a good employee, not a wealth builder. It taught me to follow rules, not create my own path. But here is the truth. The people who build real wealth didn't follow the traditional path. They understood these principles that I just shared with you. They are the exact blueprint I used to go from just $50,000 in savings to complete financial freedom. If this video gave you a new perspective on money and wealth, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Pick one principle I shared with you today and implement it this week. Drop a comment below and let me know. The rat race is a choice, and you can choose to step off anything you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.